Imagine you, building a life alongside two of the most important people to you, your wife and your best friend. A life full of love, trust, and shared memories. Now imagine discovering an unimaginable betrayal in the place you called home, perpetrated by these same people you trusted the most. This is the story of Oliver, whose world was turned upside down as he faced the painful reality of his wife's infidelity with his best friend, all under the roof of the house that symbolized their love and friendship. Join us on Oliver's journey through the pain, the betrayal, and the arduous path towards healing and redemption. Oliver had always believed he had a perfect life. A happy marriage with his lovely wife Sarah, and an unbreakable friendship with Mike, his best friend since childhood. They shared everything, from childhood secrets to significant adult moments. The house that Oliver and Sarah built together was a symbol of their love and commitment, decorated with memories of happy years. One day, while organizing a photo album with Sarah, Oliver pointed to a picture of them in the park, smiling under the autumn sun. "Remember that? That was the day you said you loved me for the first time," he said, with a nostalgic gleam in his eyes. Sarah smiled, her hand finding his on the table. "How could I forget? You were wearing that awful shirt I always teased you about," she replied, laughing. In that moment, the simplicity of their happiness seemed eternal, a reminder of the love they believed to be unbreakable. However, appearances can be deceiving. Oliver began to notice small changes in Sarah's behavior. She became distant, and her long work hours became the perfect excuse for many nights away from home. Oliver, seeking support, often turned to Mike, who always had comforting words. "You know how it is, Oliver. Work can be crazy sometimes. Sarah loves you, man. Don't let paranoia get to you," Mike would say, placing a supportive hand on Oliver's shoulder. One day, as the two were sitting in a local bar, Oliver expressed his concerns. "I just feel like she's pulling away, you know?" Oliver said, looking down at his beer glass. Mike sighed, looking at Oliver with a serious expression. "Look, brother, relationships have their ups and downs. Sarah is amazing. You two will get through this," he asserted, trying to instill confidence in his friend. Oliver wanted to believe Mike's words, clinging to the hope that things would return to normal. The truth came to light in a devastating way on a rainy night. Oliver came home early from work, eager for a peaceful evening with Sarah, only to find Mike hurriedly leaving his house, visibly shaken. "Mike! What are you doing here?" Oliver stammered, the rain soaking his hair as he watched his best friend avoid his gaze. Mike mumbled something inaudible, flimsy excuses that made no sense, before quickly walking away, leaving Oliver alone under the stormy sky. Oliver's confusion quickly turned to shock as he entered and found undeniable evidence of Sarah's betrayal with Mike, scattered throughout the room, that symbolized the home he thought he had built on trust and love. The silence of the house was deafening, only the sound of the rain beating against the windows accompanying Oliver as he walked, dazed, through the rooms. There it was, on the coffee table, a pair of earrings he had never seen before, and on the sofa, a man's jacket that was definitely not his. Each object seemed to scream the truth he refused to accept. Oliver felt as if the ground had opened up beneath his feet, a whirlwind of emotions engulfing him as the reality of his life crumbled before his eyes. The confrontation between Oliver, Sarah, and Mike was charged with brutal emotions. Sarah cried, begging for forgiveness, while Mike struggled to find words to justify his actions. "How could you do this to me?" Oliver yelled, his voice echoing through the living room walls, laden with pain and disbelief. Sarah, sobbing, tried to approach him, her hands outstretched in a gesture of pleading. "Oliver, I I don't know what to say. I never meant to hurt you. It was a mistake, a terrible mistake," she babbled through tears. Mike, standing on the sidelines of the room, looked at the floor, unable to meet his friend's gaze. "I have no excuses, Oliver. It was a betrayal, I know. I ruined everything. Our friendship, your marriage. I would give anything to go back in time," he said, finally, his voice faltering. With a broken heart, Oliver felt as if his world had collapsed. The dual betrayal of his wife and best friend left a deep scar, questioning not just his marriage, but also the friendship he valued above all else. The silence that followed was deafening, punctuated only by the continuous sound of Sarah's tears falling to the floor. In the days that followed, the house that once echoed with laughter and love became a constant reminder of the betrayal. Oliver struggled to find meaning in his new reality, questioning every happy memory and every decision he had made. The pain of the betrayal consumed not only his heart, but also the essence of his identity and trust in the people closest to him. One afternoon, as Oliver wandered alone through the house, he stopped in front of a wall filled with photographs of happy moments, each image a fragment of a life that now seemed to have belonged to someone else. He touched one of the photos, a picture from their beach trip, where he and Sarah smiled, embraced under the sun. "How did we get here?" he murmured to himself, a tear rolling down his face. The sense of emptiness was overwhelming, and the house, with its walls filled with memories, now seemed to suffocate him with the reality of his solitude. In a desperate gesture, Oliver began to remove the photographs, one by one, leaving only empty spaces on the wall behind. It was as if, by removing these images, he could somehow erase the pain and betrayal that now stained every corner of his existence. As the days dragged on, Oliver found himself plunged into deep introspection. With every object he touched, every corner he looked at, the memories of what he thought was true haunted him, making each day more unbearable. One night, in an almost ritualistic act, he decided to go through old boxes of memories stored in the attic. There he found love letters exchanged at the beginning of his relationship with Sarah, movie tickets from their first date, and photos of their adventures with Mike. Each item was a blow, a poignant reminder of the past he believed to be real. Sitting alone, surrounded by these relics of a happier time, Oliver allowed himself to cry, not just for the betrayal, but for the loss of the innocence and happiness those objects represented. The house, once a sanctuary of love and security, now seemed like a cage full of ghosts of his former life. In that moment, Oliver realized he could not continue living among these walls laden with memories. It was time to make a painful but necessary choice, to leave behind the house and all it represented. Sarah's attempt to reconnect and repair the damage seemed futile. She expressed remorse, but her words could not penetrate the wall of disillusionment and sadness that Oliver had built around himself. On a grey afternoon, she found him sitting on the porch, lost in thought. With hesitation, Sarah approached, sitting at a respectful distance. "Oliver, I know there may be nothing I can say to change what happened, but I need you to know how deeply I regret it," she began, her voice trembling. Oliver remained silent, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "I lost myself, and I lost you in the process. I would give anything to go back and do things differently," she continued, the tears now flowing freely. Oliver, finally turning to face her, spoke in a low but firm voice. "Sarah, the trust we had, that I had in you and in Mike, was broken. It's not something that can be fixed with words of apology," he said, expressing the depth of his pain. Sarah cried, begging for forgiveness, but Oliver knew that some wounds were too deep to heal. The emotional distance between them had become an insurmountable abyss. Mike tried to apologize, explaining that what happened was a mistake, a moment of weakness that destroyed years of friendship. But for Oliver, these apologies sounded hollow, echoes of a loyalty he thought would last a lifetime. They met in a park, a neutral location, away from the ruins of their past lives. "Oliver, I know there's nothing I can say now that will make a difference, but I am truly sorry," Mike said, his gaze avoiding Oliver's. "You were my brother, Mike, how could you?" Oliver responded, his voice laden with betrayal and pain. The silence that followed was heavy, the air between them charged with years of shattered trust. "I don't know if I can forgive you, Mike. I don't know if I ever will," Oliver continued, finally looking Mike in the eye. The look in Oliver's eyes was clear. The friendship, once a pillar of his existence, was now a painful memory of betrayal. They parted that day, knowing that the bond they had shared had been irrevocably broken. In search of some form of closure, Oliver began to distance himself from everything and everyone that reminded him of the life he thought he had. He moved into a smaller apartment, away from the suburbs he had shared with Sarah and Mike. This isolation, though lonely, offered him a refuge, a place where he could begin to piece together the shards of his broken heart. One night, as Oliver was organizing some boxes, he found an old diary he used to write in. Flipping through its pages, he came across entries about his hopes and dreams for the future, many of which included Sarah and Mike. With the diary open in his hands, Oliver felt a wave of nostalgia for a life that now seemed a distant illusion. It was then that he decided to start a new diary, an attempt to document his journey towards healing. Writing became his therapy, a means to express the pain and grief he felt, but also to acknowledge the small steps he was taking towards rebuilding himself. However, the solitude also brought moments of deep reflection. Oliver began to question whether he ever truly knew Sarah and Mike, or if he had simply seen in them what he wanted to see. The pain of betrayal forced him to look inward, pondering his own identity and what it truly meant to be loved and betrayed. On one of those lonely nights, Oliver found himself aimlessly wandering the city streets, the city lights blinking indifferently around him. "Who am I, now that the two people who mattered most to me have betrayed me?" he asked himself, feeling more lost than ever. This questioning led Oliver to seek professional help, initiating therapy sessions that he initially resisted. Over time, these sessions became essential to his recovery, offering him a safe space to unravel the tangled threads of his thoughts and emotions. It was through this painful but necessary process that Oliver began to glimpse a future where he could forgive himself and perhaps forgive others. In time, the storm within Oliver began to calm. The pain, though never fully gone, transformed into a kind of melancholic resignation. He learned to accept the betrayal not as the end of his story, but as a painful chapter that would inevitably lead to a new beginning. Oliver never forgot Sarah and Mike, but the bitter lesson of betrayal taught him about the impermanence of human relationships and the importance of finding peace and happiness within himself, above all else. And so, after navigating the turbulent waters of betrayal and grief, Oliver shows us that even in the face of the deepest pain, it is possible to find a path to healing and self-discovery. Oliver's journey was not an easy one, filled with moments of doubt, loneliness, and deep reflection. It teaches us about the importance of resilience and the ability to forgive, even when it seems impossible. And you, what would you do in Oliver's place? Would you have the strength to rebuild your life after such a profound betrayal? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to continue following more stories like this. I'll see you in a new story.